All right. Welcome back, everyone. Today, we're going to be tackling something I know a lot of you are interested in, and that's growth hacking.
Oh, yeah.
And we're going to be diving into some excerpts from a book that was published recently called A Masterclass on Growth Hacking by Zenson Tran.
Yep, great book.
And, a lot of you might be feeling pressure to generate that hockey stick growth.
Yeah,
But, you might also be dealing with things like limited resources, unclear goals, those deadlines that always seem to be looming. And trust me, you're not alone in feeling that.
absolutely. Those are
Yeah.
very real issues. And Zenson, he really does a great job of kind of distilling things down into these practical plans that anyone can use. So this deep dive is really going to be about giving you that clear roadmap to driving sustainable growth and hopefully, leaving you with a little bit more confidence in your approach.
I love that. Okay, so before we get into the nitty-gritty of how to do this, let's define growth hacking. What is it? Why are we even talking about this?
Yeah. So think of it as a more agile and data-driven approach to growth. It's about being willing to experiment, measure what's happening, and then adapt quickly because the market changes really quickly. And it's not about finding those magic bullets. It's about testing different channels, seeing what's working, refining your strategies, and then really going all in on the things that actually move the needle.
Yeah, I like that. It's kind of like a scientific experiment, but for your business.
Exactly.
But that can feel like a lot, especially if you're already feeling overwhelmed.
It can. But think about the potential payoff here. Like um, think about Dropbox when they were first getting started. They had this challenge of explaining cloud storage, which was brand new.
Yeah, people didn't really I don't think people got it at first what that even was.
Exactly. And they didn't really have a ton of money to throw at expensive advertising campaigns. So what they did was they created this really clever referral program where they rewarded both the existing users and the new users with more storage space.
Yeah, I remember that. It was everywhere. Suddenly everyone was talking about Dropbox.
Right, exactly.
But what was it about that particular strategy that made it work? Was it just because cloud storage was new?
Well, I think it was partly that, but it really tapped into that very human desire for reciprocity, right? When
Yeah.
someone gives you something for free, you feel this need to return the favor.
Oh, yeah.
And also it leveraged social proof, right? When you see all your friends are using this thing, you're more likely to give it a try yourself. And they kept refining this program over time, right? They tweaked the messaging, they played around with the timing. And that combined with just the inherent virality of cloud storage led to this really explosive growth that made Dropbox a household name without them having to spend a ton of money.
So it sounds like what you're saying is growth hacking is about finding those kind of clever counterintuitive strategies that really tap into human behavior.
Exactly.
And maybe even trends to create those kinds of viral loops that we all want.
Exactly. But it's important to remember that Zenson you know, doesn't sugarcoat things in the book. He's very upfront about the challenges. You are going to face limited resources. Whether it's time or budget or people, you're going to have stakeholders breathing down your neck, wanting to see results right away.
Oh yeah, like where's our hockey stick? Right.
No, exactly.
And then what about those situations where you've got different teams that are kind of working in silos, right? Everybody's doing their own thing. No one's really talking to each other. How do you even begin to apply growth hacking in that kind of environment?
That's a common problem.
Oh, really?
And even when you find something that works, it can be really hard to keep that momentum going.
Oh, yeah.
Every tactic is going to eventually plateau. So you need a system, a process in place that brings everyone together, right? Aligns their efforts and allows you to learn both from your wins and your losses. And that's what Zenson's book really tries to provide is that framework for bringing people, processes, and tools together.
Okay, so before we get into all the specifics, let's talk about who this is actually for. I mean, is growth hacking just for startups, or can more established companies benefit from this approach as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's definitely a great fit for startups because they don't have a lot of resources. They're under a lot of pressure to get things done really quickly. So, they can experiment, learn from those mistakes and then really scale up the things that do work.
Yeah, that makes sense. But
Uh,
sounds like it could be valuable for companies that have been around for a while but have kind of hit that plateau, right? Well,
Absolutely. I mean, it
yeah.
can be a game changer for businesses that are struggling with things like stagnant user acquisition, low retention rates, marketing campaigns that aren't really doing much.
Right. So instead of just throwing more money at the problem, you're trying to be a little more strategic, a little bit more creative, maybe testing out some new channels or some new messaging.
Exactly. Using data to make better decisions. And, Zenson, he has this really great example in the book of a mid-sized e-commerce brand that sells sustainable clothing. And they were struggling with three main things, right? Their website traffic had kind of stalled out.
Yeah.
They weren't getting a lot of repeat customers. And their social media ads just weren't really performing very well.
Oh, yeah. That is a recipe for disaster. So what did they do? Did they just start trying random things and hoping for the best?
Well, they took a structured approach and
Yeah.
they started running these small, very targeted experiments.
Yeah.
So, for example, they partnered with some micro influencers, and then they tracked website traffic in real time to see what impact that was having.
Yeah.
And they created some very personalized email campaigns targeted at customers who hadn't shopped with them in a while to try to win them back. And they even explored a subscription model to see if they could create the more stable revenue stream.
So it sounds like instead of making these, sweeping changes, they focused on smaller experiments that they could learn from and adapt along the way. But I'm guessing growth hacking isn't, without its pitfalls.
Oh, absolutely not.
What are some of the common mistakes that people make when they're trying to implement these ideas?
Yeah, one of the biggest mistakes is blindly chasing trends. You see a competitor doing something and it's working for them. And so you think, oh, I have to do that too, without thinking about whether that's the right thing for your brand or your audience or your product.
It's like that, shiny object syndrome. You see something sparkly and you forget what you were doing in the first place.
Exactly. And that leads to, scattered efforts, wasted resources. You end up spreading yourself too thin and you don't really master anything.
Yeah.
Another common pitfall is the discount dilemma. It's so tempting to rely on discounts, right?
Oh, yeah.
But that trains your customers to only buy when there's a sale going on.
It's a slippery slope. You end up eroding your margins. You devalue your brand.
Exactly. Yeah. And another mistake is focusing only on getting new customers
Yeah.
while neglecting the ones you already have.
It's that leaky bucket analogy.
Exactly.
Right. You're pouring in new customers, but they're not staying.
Right. So you have to understand why people are leaving.
Right.
Right. Why are they churning? What are the friction points in their experience? Are they not seeing the value in your product? Is the onboarding process too confusing? Yeah.
Are
there bugs? Are there glitches?
Right. So it's about getting curious and understanding those leaks in the bucket.
Exactly. You need to be gathering data, talking to users, analyzing their behavior, and really dig deep to understand those root causes.
Yeah. So instead of just throwing more marketing dollars at the problem, you're taking a step back and saying, wait a minute, why are people actually leaving? And then you address those issues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's about, shifting from a reactive approach to a more proactive approach. So instead of waiting for customers to leave, you're actively trying to identify and fix those problems
I like that.
before they become, reasons for people to churn.
Yeah.
And then there's the issue of poor data utilization.
Oh, wow.
A lot of companies, they have tons of data,
Yeah.
but they're not really doing anything with it.
Yeah. They don't know what to do with it.
Exactly right. They're not looking at the right metrics. The data's siloed. So it's really important to create this culture of data literacy, make sure that everybody understands, how important data is for making decisions, train them to, interpret that data and break down those silos so everybody has access to the information they need.
Yeah. So it's not just about having the data. It's about having the right culture and processes in place to actually use that data.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And don't forget about the tools.
Tool.
Yeah, there are so many amazing analytics platforms and data visualization tools that can help you make sense of all that information.
I feel like there's a new one every day. It's hard to even know where to start.
It can be overwhelming,
Yeah.
but the key is to choose the tools that are going to integrate well with your existing systems.
Oh, okay. So we've talked about data, data literacy, having the right tools. What about automation? Where does that fit in?
Automation can be a real game changer, especially when you're trying to scale. It frees up your team from doing those repetitive, time-consuming tasks.
Oh, okay. So it's about working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that.
And it ensures consistency. So you can automate things like email marketing, lead nurturing, posting to social media, even some aspects of customer support.
Oh, wow. Okay. But are there any downsides to that? Because I've heard some people say that it can make things feel a little impersonal.
Yeah, it's a valid concern. You don't want to automate everything. You have to find that right balance
Yeah.
between, the human touch and the automation.
Okay. So it's not all or nothing.
Right.
It's about being strategic.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go back to the core principles of growth hacking. I know you mentioned customer funnels earlier. Can you refresh my memory on what those are exactly?
Yeah. So funnels provide a way to visualize the customer journey from the moment that someone becomes aware of your brand all the way through to the point where they become a paying customer. And it helps you to really identify the key stages in that journey and the places where people are dropping off or, running into obstacles.
Oh, so it's like a map of the customer journey, and you're trying to identify those roadblocks that are preventing people from getting to the destination.
Exactly. Exactly. And by understanding that funnel, you can start to optimize each stage so that you can improve your conversion rates.
Okay. So you're streamlining the process, making it easier for people to become customers.
Exactly.
But Zenson doesn't stop there, right? He also talks about growth loops.
Yes, he does. So growth loops, they take that funnel concept even further and they highlight how certain actions can create that self-reinforcing cycle that just drives, ongoing growth.
I'd love to hear an example.
Okay, so the classic example is Dropbox's referral program.
Oh,
When a user refers a friend, both of them get that extra storage space. So that creates that incentive for them to keep referring people, which then brings in more new users who then refer more people and so on.
it's like a chain reaction.
Exactly. And there are all sorts of different growth loops that you can implement from these simple referral programs to more complex strategies that leverage things like network effects or user-generated content.
So you're looking for those actions that create that positive feedback loop where one action leads to another, and it just kind of keeps feeding itself.
Exactly.
And hopefully, creating that sustainable growth.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. Now I want to go back to retention for a second. I think we both agree that it's crucial for long-term success. But what are some concrete strategies for improving retention?
Yeah. So Zenson, he offers a ton of really great insights on how to improve retention. Everything from building a really strong community to personalizing the user experience to really being proactive about addressing feedback. And one of the most powerful strategies that he highlights is gamification.
Okay. Now, I've heard that term before, but can you explain it in a way that someone who's not, big gamer would understand?
Yeah, so gamification is basically incorporating game-like elements into your product or service. So think points, badges, leaderboards, challenges, rewards.
Oh, okay. So you're turning everyday tasks into a game.
Exactly.
That's kind of cool.
It really taps into that natural desire that we all have
Mm.
for competition, for achievement, and for recognition.
Yeah.
And it can be incredibly effective at boosting engagement, getting people to come back, and fostering that sense of community.
Okay. But I'm guessing it's not as simple as just throwing, some badges and points at your product and calling it a day.
No, you're right. You have to be strategic about it. The game mechanics have to align with your core value proposition, and they should be encouraging behaviors that actually benefit both the user and your business.
Right. You don't want to create a game that's so engaging that people forget about the actual product that you're selling.
Exactly, exactly. And of course, you need to track your results. You have to see if it's actually moving the needle.
Yeah. Okay. So gamification is one strategy. What are some other things that we can do to improve retention?
Well, another important strategy is personalization. People are more likely to stick around if they feel like the company really gets them, understands their needs and their preferences.
Yeah, you want to feel seen. You don't want to feel like just a number in a database.
Exactly. So you need to get good at collecting and analyzing data, segmenting your audience, and then delivering targeted messages that resonate with each individual.
Okay. So you're using that data to create a personalized experience. But isn't there a risk of that becoming kind of creepy? Like, how do they know so much about me?
Yeah, it's a fine line. You have
Mm.
to be transparent about how you're using that data and give people control over their privacy settings.
Yeah, it's about building trust.
Exactly. Yeah. And another really important aspect of retention is providing excellent customer support.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I've definitely stopped using products because of bad customer service.
We all have, right? So
Yeah.
make it easy for people to get help.
Yeah.
Offer multiple support channels, be responsive, and just be empathetic and helpful.
So it's about going above and beyond to make people feel valued.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not just about resolving those issues. It's about creating those moments that turn your customers into, you know, into raving fans.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so we've talked about gamification, personalization, customer support. Any other retention strategies that we should be thinking about?
Well, it's important to remember that retention is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time fix.
Yeah.
You have to constantly be looking for ways to improve and to keep people engaged.
So it's about creating a culture of continuous improvement.
You got it. And that brings us back to experimentation.
Okay, so let's talk about experimentation. It sounds like that's really at the heart of growth hacking.
Absolutely. Experimentation is about testing new ideas,
Yeah.
measuring what happens, and then making changes based on what you learn. And it's not just about, uh, A/B testing landing pages and email subject lines. You can experiment with all sorts of things.
Okay.
Your pricing model, your onboarding flow, your social media strategy.
So you're constantly trying things out
Yeah,
and seeing what works.
exactly. But you need to be structured about it, right?
Mhm.
Define your hypotheses, establish your metrics, and then use the right tools to track and analyze those results.
Okay, so you're not just randomly throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks.
No, exactly.
Mm.
And remember, failure is part of the process. Some of the most valuable lessons come from the things that don't work.
So you're not afraid to fail.
Mm.
In fact, you embrace it as a learning experience.
Exactly. And that brings us to one of the most important things about building a successful growth strategy, which is creating that culture of learning and improvement.
I like that. But how do you actually create that culture? How do you get everybody on board?
Well, it's not enough to just implement a few tactics, right?
Yeah.
You need to create an environment where everybody feels empowered to try new things,
Yeah.
to share ideas,
Yeah.
and to learn from both the successes and the mistakes.
So you're creating a safe space for people to take risks.
Exactly. Yeah. And that requires a shift in mindset. As leaders, you have to model that growth mindset.
Yeah.
You have to be transparent. You have to encourage communication, and you have to celebrate both the wins and the learnings.
I love that.
You're not punishing people for trying things out.
Right.
You're seeing those failures as valuable data points.
Yeah. So you're creating that culture of innovation and experimentation.
Yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like, creating that winning growth team is about more than just finding the right people,
Right.
right? It's about building the right culture and having the right leadership.
You got it. It's about creating a place where people feel valued and respected and empowered to do their best work.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about building a great team, but, growth hacking can be tough. There's going to be times when you want to give up.
Oh, absolutely.
So how do you stay motivated and inspired, especially when things aren't going your way?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Growth hacking can definitely feel like a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
So you need to have strategies in place to keep yourself going and to avoid burnout. And one of the most important things is to celebrate those wins.
The wins?
Yes, both big and small.
Oh.
Take the time to acknowledge those accomplishments, recognize the team's hard work, and reward yourselves for the effort.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in what's not working that you forget to celebrate the things that are.
Exactly. Make it a habit to celebrate those wins, no matter how small they may seem. It's going to boost morale and keep everyone motivated.
Okay, so celebrate the wins. What about the failures? How do you deal with the inevitable setbacks?
Don't be afraid to share those either. Remember, failures are just learning opportunities in disguise.
I like that.
Use them as a chance to reflect, to iterate, to improve. Share those learnings with your team. Create that culture where it's safe to fail, where everybody can learn from each other's mistakes.
So you're taking the sting out of failure and you're reframing it as a valuable part of the process.
Exactly. And another key to staying motivated is to surround yourself with positive and supportive people, find mentors, join communities, connect with other growth hackers.
Oh, that's a great idea.
They can share their experiences. They can offer advice. They can provide that encouragement that you need.
Yeah, it's so helpful to have those people who understand what you're going through.
Absolutely. Sometimes just having a conversation with someone who's been there can make all the difference.
Okay. So celebrate the wins, embrace those failures, build a supportive network. Any other tips for staying motivated on this journey?
Yeah, the most important one is to take care of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Growth hacking can be all-consuming.
Oh,
It
yeah.
can take over your life. So you have to prioritize your physical and your mental health.
Yeah.
Make sure you're sleeping enough, eating healthy foods,
Yeah.
getting exercise, taking breaks.
Burnout is real.
It is. It's a
Yeah.
real risk. And, your well-being is essential for your success.
Yeah.
You can't pour from an empty cup.
That's a great reminder. Okay, so we've talked about building that winning growth team and staying motivated on this, this exciting but often challenging journey. As we're, starting to wrap up this first part of our deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways that you want our listeners to remember?
I think, the most important thing is that growth hacking is a journey, not a destination.
Oh, I like that.
It's a process.
Yeah.
It's about experimenting, learning, adapting. It's not about finding that one, perfect solution that's going to solve all your problems overnight.
Yeah, there's no magic bullet.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's not one size fits all.
Right.
What works for one business might not work for another.
Yeah.
So you have to find what works for you.
So find your own path.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try new things. Embrace those failures. Celebrate the wins. Just have that growth mindset.
I love that. And most importantly, stay focused on your customers.
Absolutely. Growth hacking is all about delivering value to your users,
Yeah.
building those relationships. So keep your customers at the center of everything you do.
I love that. Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of ground in this first part. We've explored, what growth hacking is, why it matters. We've talked about some of the challenges and some of the key things to keep in mind. And I hope our listeners are, feeling inspired and empowered to take their growth to the next level.
Absolutely. Me too. It's been great talking about this with you.
Likewise. And to our listeners, remember, the future of your business is in your hands. So go out there, experiment, learn, grow, and never stop pushing the boundaries.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Welcome back. So I think it's important to acknowledge that growth hacking isn't always, easy or fun.
Yeah.
There are real challenges, especially if you're working in a fast-paced environment. What are some of those challenges?
I think one of the biggest ones is the pressure to deliver results quickly. Investors and stakeholders, they want to see those hockey stick numbers.
Oh, yeah.
The website visits, the leads, the conversions, and that can lead to, prioritizing short-term tactics over long-term strategy.
It's that instant gratification thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody wants to see those numbers skyrocketing overnight.
And I can see how that pressure could lead to, some bad decisions like, chasing the latest trend without really thinking it through.
Yeah, Zenson actually warns against that in his book. He calls it trend chasing.
Yeah.
And he gives this example of a company that saw a competitor having success with a TikTok campaign. And so they immediately tried to copy it, even though their product and their target audience were completely different.
Yeah, I can see how that would backfire. It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You might get a temporary boost, but it's not going to lead to that sustainable growth.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of over-reliance on discounts.
Yeah.
Promotions can be effective in the short term, but they can also train your customers to only buy when there's a sale going on.
Right. And then you're basically eroding your margins. You're devaluing your brand.
Exactly. It becomes a race to the bottom.
Yeah, and nobody wins in that scenario. Okay, so we've talked about the pressure to deliver quick results, the dangers of trend chasing and over reliance on discounts. What other challenges do growth hackers face?
Another big one is poor data utilization. So many companies, they're collecting all this data,
Yeah.
but they're not using it effectively.
Yeah, they don't know what to do with it.
Right. They might be tracking vanity metrics that don't actually matter.
Hmm.
Or they might have the data siloed across different departments. So it's really hard to get a complete picture of what's going on.
Yeah, it's like having all the pieces of a puzzle, but no picture on the box to guide you.
Exactly. So it's really important to create that culture of data literacy. Make sure that everyone understands how important data is, train people on how to interpret it, and break down those silos so everyone has access to the information they need.
So it's not just about having the data, it's about having the right culture and the right processes in place to actually use it.
Absolutely. And don't forget about the tools. There's so many great analytics platforms and data visualization tools that can help you make sense of all that data.
I feel like there's a new one every day.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
It is.
But the key is to choose tools that integrate well with your existing systems.
Okay, so data literacy, having the right tools. What about automation? Where does that fit in?
Automation can be really powerful, especially when you're trying to scale your efforts. It frees up your team from doing those repetitive tasks.
So working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. And it ensures consistency. So you can automate things like your email marketing, lead nurturing, your social media posting, even some aspects of customer support.
Wow. Okay. But are there any downsides to that? Because I've heard some people say it can make things feel a little impersonal.
Yeah, that's a valid concern. You don't want to automate everything. You have to find the right balance between, that human touch and the efficiency of automation.
Okay, so it's not all or nothing. You got to be strategic about it. Okay, so let's circle back to the core principles of growth hacking. And I know you mentioned customer funnels earlier. Can you remind me what those are again?
Yeah, so funnels are basically a way to visualize the customer journey from the moment someone becomes aware of your brand all the way through to the point where they become a paying customer. And it helps you identify those key stages in that journey and the places where people are dropping off or running into obstacles.
So it's like a map of the customer journey and you're trying to identify those roadblocks that are preventing people from reaching the destination.
Exactly. And by understanding the funnel, you can start to optimize each stage to improve your conversion rates.
Okay, so streamlining the process, making it easier for people to become customers.
Exactly.
But Zenson doesn't stop there, right? He also talks about growth loops.
That's right. Growth loops take that funnel concept a step further, and they highlight how certain actions can create this self-reinforcing cycle that drives ongoing growth.
I'd love to hear an example.
Okay, so the classic example is Dropbox's referral program.
Oh, yeah.
When a user refers a friend, both the user and the friend get extra storage space.
Mm.
So that creates this incentive for them to keep referring people, which brings in more new users who then refer more people, and so on.
So it's a chain reaction?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there are tons of different types of growth loops that you can implement, from simple referral programs to more sophisticated strategies that leverage network effects or user-generated content.
So you're looking for those actions that create a positive feedback loop where one action leads to another, and it kind of keeps feeding itself,
Exactly.
hopefully creating that, sustainable growth that we're all looking for.
Exactly.
Okay. Now I want to circle back to retention for a second. I think we both agree that it's absolutely crucial for long-term success, but what are some specific strategies for improving retention?
Retention is key. And Zenson has some really good insights on how to improve it. Everything from building a strong community to personalizing the user experience to being proactive about getting feedback. And one of the most effective strategies he talks about is gamification.
Okay. Gamification. Can you explain that in a way that someone who's not a gamer would understand?
Yeah, gamification is about incorporating game-like elements into your product or service. So think about things like points, badges, leaderboards, challenges, rewards.
Oh, so you're turning those everyday tasks into a game.
Exactly. It taps into our natural desire for competition, for achievement, and for recognition. And it can be super effective at boosting engagement, getting people to come back, and fostering that sense of community.
That's cool, but I'm guessing it's not as simple as just like slapping some badges and points on your product and calling it a day.
No, you have to be strategic about it. The game mechanics need to align with your core value proposition. And they should be encouraging behaviors that actually benefit both the user and your business.
Right. You don't want to create a game that's so fun and engaging that people forget about the actual product you're offering.
Exactly. And you need to track your results. You need to make sure that it's actually moving the needle on those key metrics.
Okay, so gamification is one strategy. What are some other things that we can do to improve retention?
Another important strategy is personalization. People are more likely to stick around if they feel like the company understands their individual needs and preferences.
Right, so they feel seen and heard, not just treated like another number.
Exactly. So you need to get good at collecting and analyzing data, segmenting your audience, and delivering those targeted messages that resonate with each individual.
So you're using data to create those personalized experiences, but isn't there a risk of that getting a little creepy? Like, how do they know so much about me?
It's a fine line. You have to be transparent about how you're using data and give people control over their privacy settings.
Right, it's about building trust.
Exactly. And another really important aspect of retention is providing excellent customer support.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've definitely stopped using products because of bad customer service experiences.
We all have. So make it easy for people to get help when they need it. Offer multiple support channels. Respond quickly. And be empathetic and helpful.
So it's about making people feel valued and supported.
Exactly. And it's not just about resolving issues. It's about going above and beyond to create those moments that turn customers into raving fans.
Okay. So we've talked about gamification, personalization, and customer support. Any other retention strategies we should be thinking about?
Well, it's important to remember that retention is an ongoing process. It's not a one-time fix.
Yeah.
You constantly have to be looking for ways to improve and keep people engaged.
So it's all about creating that culture of continuous improvement.
You got it. And that brings us back to experimentation.
Okay, let's talk about experimentation. It seems like that's a core principle of growth hacking.
Absolutely. Experimentation is about constantly testing new ideas, measuring those results, and iterating based on what you learn. And it's not just about A/B testing landing pages and email subject lines. You can experiment with everything from your pricing model to your onboarding flow to your social media strategy.
So you're constantly trying things out, seeing what sticks.
Exactly. But you have to have a structured approach. Define your hypotheses, establish those measurable metrics, and use the right tools to track and analyze your results.
So it's not just randomly trying things, it's about having a process.
Exactly. And don't be afraid of failure.
Hmm.
Some of the most valuable lessons come from those experiments that don't work out as planned.
So it's not about avoiding failure, it's about embracing it as a learning opportunity.
Exactly. Failures are just opportunities to learn and improve. And that brings us to one of the most important aspects of building a successful growth strategy, which is fostering a culture of continuous learning and improvement.
That's so important. But how do you actually create that kind of culture within an organization?
It's not enough to just implement a few tactics and hope for the best. You need to create an environment where everyone on the team feels empowered to experiment, to share ideas, and to learn from both their successes and their failures.
So create a safe space for people to take risks.
Exactly. And that requires a shift in mindset. As leaders, you have to model that growth mindset. You have to encourage transparency and open communication, and you have to celebrate both the wins and the learnings.
So it's not about punishing people for trying things out and maybe not getting it right the first time.
Exactly. You're seeing those failures as valuable data points.
So you're creating that culture of innovation, of experimentation.
Exactly. That's how you build a growth hacking machine.
Okay. So it sounds like building a winning growth team is about more than just assembling a group of talented people, right?
Right.
It's about building the right culture, having the right leadership.
You got it. It's about creating a place where people feel valued, respected, and empowered to do their best work.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about building a great team, but let's be real, growth hacking can be tough. There are going to be times when you feel like giving up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So how do you stay motivated and inspired, especially when things aren't going your way?
That's such a great question. Growth hacking is definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah.
So you need to have those strategies in place to keep yourself going and to avoid burnout. And one of the most important things is to celebrate your wins.
The wins.
Yes, both big and small.
Hmm.
Take the time to acknowledge your accomplishments, recognize your team's hard work, and reward yourselves for your efforts.
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in what's not working that we forget to celebrate the things that are.
Exactly. Make it a habit to celebrate those wins no matter how small. It'll boost morale and keep everyone motivated.
Okay, so celebrate those wins. What about the failures? How do you deal with the inevitable setbacks?
Don't be afraid to share those failures. Remember, failures are just learning opportunities in disguise. Use them as a chance to reflect, to iterate, and to improve. Share those learnings with your team. Create a culture where it's safe to fail,
Okay.
where everyone can benefit from each other's mistakes.
So taking the sting out of failure and reframing it as a valuable part of the process?
Exactly. And another key to staying motivated is to surround yourself with positive and supportive people. Find mentors, join communities, and connect with other growth hackers.
Oh, yeah.
They can share their experiences, offer advice, and provide that encouragement you need.
Yeah. It's so helpful to have those people who understand what you're going through.
It really is. Sometimes just having a conversation with someone who's been there and done that can make all the difference.
Okay. So celebrate the wins, embrace those failures, and build that supportive network. Any other tips for staying motivated?
Yeah. The most important one, take care of yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Growth hacking can be all-consuming,
Yeah.
so you have to prioritize your physical and mental health. Make sure you're getting enough sleep, eating healthy, exercising, taking breaks.
Yeah, burnout is real.
It is. And your well-being is essential to your long-term success. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Such a good reminder. Okay, so we've talked about building a winning growth team and staying motivated on this, very exciting but often challenging journey. As we're getting ready to move into the final part of our deep dive, I'd love to hear your final thoughts on growth hacking. What are the key takeaways you want our listeners to remember?
I think the most important thing is to remember that growth hacking is a journey, not a destination.
Well, I like that.
It's a process. It's
Yeah.
about experimenting, learning, adapting. It's not about finding that one perfect solution that's going to solve all your problems overnight.
Right. There's no magic bullet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not one size fits all. What works for one company might not work for another. So you have to find the strategies and the tactics that align with your goals, your audience, and your product or service.
So find your own path to growth.
Right. And don't be afraid to experiment. That's the beauty of growth hacking. You can constantly test new ideas and iterate based on what you learn. Embrace failure as a learning opportunity and celebrate those wins, big or small.
Oh, have that growth mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And most importantly, stay focused on your customers. Growth hacking is all about delivering value to your users and building those long-term relationships. Keep your customers at the heart of everything you do, and you'll be on your way.
Fantastic advice. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this second part of our deep dive. We've talked about the challenges that growth hackers face, the importance of understanding the customer journey, and the power of experimentation. We also touched on some of the ethical and technological trends that are shaping the future of growth hacking.
Yeah,
And, I think this provides a really solid foundation for anyone who's looking to implement these principles in their own business.
absolutely.
So when we come back, we're going to wrap things up by talking about how to build a winning growth team and how to stay motivated and inspired on your growth journey.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive on growth hacking. We've covered a lot of ground, the principles, the challenges, the trends, but I think it's important to remember that, you can have the best growth hacking plan in the world, but if you don't have the right people to actually execute it, it's not going to amount to much.
That's so true. It really does all come down to the people.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the human side of growth hacking. What does it take to build a really great growth team?
Yeah, let's get into that because I think a lot of people have this image of, the growth hacker as this kind of lone wolf, like a maverick genius who's, working in isolation. Is that accurate?
Not really. Growth hacking is very much a team sport. You need a diverse group of people with different talents who can work together.
So what are the key things that you look for when you're putting together a growth team?
Well, first and foremost, you need people who are passionate about growth. They're driven. They're curious, always eager to learn and experiment. They embrace those challenges. They view those failures as learning opportunities, and they're constantly pushing themselves to get better.
Yeah, they're not afraid to get their hands dirty, right?
Exactly. And they need to be data driven. They're comfortable working with numbers, analyzing those metrics, and using that data to make smarter decisions.
Yeah, so it's not just about going with your gut. You got to back it up with the data.
Exactly. And they also have to be great collaborators. Growth hacking is all about teamwork. So you need people who can communicate clearly, share their ideas, and work effectively with everyone.
So it's not about individual rock stars. It's about putting together a really cohesive unit.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, the goal of any growth team is to drive sustainable growth. So you need people who are passionate about the product or service, who believe in it, and who can really connect with the target audience.
So it sounds like you're not just looking for, skilled marketers, but also really strong communicators, people who can, tell the story of your product.
That's right. And in a field that's changing so rapidly, they also need to be adaptable. The world of growth hacking never stands still. So you need people who can learn new skills quickly, embrace those new technologies, and pivot when necessary.
So they got to be comfortable with change, with ambiguity. It's not a job for everyone, that's for sure.
Definitely not.
Back.
And finally, and maybe most importantly, you need a leader who can inspire and motivate the team.
Someone who can set the vision, communicate it effectively, and help the team to do their best work.
Exactly. A leader who can create that culture of trust and learning that we talked about.
So it sounds like building a great team is about more than just assembling a bunch of talented people. It's about finding people who are a good fit for your culture, who share your
Oh,
values, and who are excited about the challenge.
that's exactly right. It's an ongoing process of finding the right people, fostering the right culture,
Mhm.
and providing that strong leadership.
Okay, so we've talked about building a great team. But let's be honest, growth hacking can be a grind. There's going to be setbacks, there's going to be times when you feel like giving up. So, how do you stay motivated and inspired, especially when things aren't going your way?
It's such a great question. Growth hacking can definitely feel like a roller coaster ride. So it's important to have those strategies in place to stay motivated and prevent burnout.
Hmm.
And one of the most important things is to celebrate those wins.
Celebrate the wins.
Yes, both big and small. Take the time to, acknowledge those wins,
Oh, okay.
recognize the team's hard work,
Hmm.
and reward yourselves.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, the grind,
Oh, yeah.
and forget to appreciate those
It's
moments.
easy to focus on what's not working and forget to celebrate what is.
Exactly. Make it a habit to celebrate those wins, no matter how small they may seem. It'll boost morale and it'll keep everyone motivated.
Yeah. Okay, so celebrate the wins. What about the failures? How do you deal with those inevitable setbacks?
Don't be afraid to share those failures. Remember, they're just learning opportunities in disguise.
Yeah.
Use them as a chance to reflect, to iterate, to improve. Share those learnings with your team. Create that culture where it's okay to make mistakes,
Yeah.
where everybody can benefit from each other's, missteps.
So you're taking the sting out of failure
Yeah.
and reframing it as a valuable part of the learning process.
Exactly. Yeah. And another key to staying motivated is to surround yourself with positive and supportive people. Find mentors, join communities, connect with other growth hackers.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
They can offer advice, they can share their experiences, and they can provide that encouragement when you need it.
It's so helpful to have people who get it, who understand the challenges.
Absolutely. Sometimes just having a conversation with somebody who's been there and done that can make all the difference.
Okay, so celebrate the wins, embrace the failures, build that support network. Any other tips for staying motivated on this crazy journey?
The most important one, and I can't emphasize this enough, is to take care of yourself.
Hmm.
Growth hacking can be all consuming.
Yeah.
It can take over your life.
Yeah.
So you have to make time for your physical and your mental health. Get enough sleep, eat healthy, exercise, take breaks.
Burnout is real. I've seen it happen.
It is. It's a real risk.
Yeah.
And, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself.
That's such a good reminder. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into growth hacking. We've talked about the what, the why, the how, and I hope our listeners are feeling inspired and ready to take their growth efforts to the next level. Any final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that growth hacking is a journey, not a destination. It's an ongoing process. It's about being adaptable and innovative and always putting your customers first.
So keep learning, keep experimenting, keep growing, and never stop pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
That's right. It's been a pleasure diving deep with you.
Likewise. And to all of our listeners out there, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. Until next time.